This chapter covers the final interpretation and reporting of your systematic review. You can think of it as the discussion section of your systematic review report. So first, we obviously summarize the finding. What is the overall effect or association that we estimated? Or if we couldn't do a meta-analysis, what was the overall finding when we did our narrative synthesis? We want to assess the certainty of the evidence. How confident are we in these findings? And I will talk a bit about GRADE as a tool for doing this certainty assessment. We want to consider the weaknesses and limitations, not only for the included studies, but also for our systematic review. Are we confident that we got all the studies in this field? Could we have missed something? Were there other limitations in our approach to the systematic review? Then we want to consider the applicability. So are the findings relevant to the PICO question that we set up? What's the consequences for research? What's the consequences for practice given these new findings? And we finalize everything with conclusions that provides a balanced summary of the evidence. And we need to reflect the sort of strengths and limitations of the evidence base and our systematic review. The GRADE framework helps us assess the overall certainty of the evidence for each outcome. It's different from risk of bias because risk of bias assessment is for the individual studies. The grading is for the entire evidence base that we have put forth. The possible grades are high, moderate, low, or very low. And it tells us how confident we can be that the true effect is similar to the estimated effect from the review. The preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis, PRISMA 2020 statement, is the gold standard for reporting. It provides a checklist and flow diagram to ensure that your report is transparent, complete, and reproducible. And following this is pretty much standard and mandatory for most major journals if you ever wanted to publish your systematic review. While systematic reviews might vary in the way that they present the results, and it might depend on the question or the research field, there are a few things that really have to be in every systematic review. The PRISMA flow diagram shows the flow of studies through the review. So how many did we find? How many did we remove at screening? How many were excluded when we were reading full text, etc., etc. Then you want a table that describes the characteristics of the included studies. It's a table that you can look at if you're reading the review to see a brief overview of the population studies, the interventions, the comparators, the outcomes, etc. You want to have at least one or two risk of bias figures. So when you're doing your risk of bias assessment, there's usually a lot of textual data that you produce, but in your final report, you want something that's an easy overview, and you'll create plots that show the risk of bias assessment. And a forest plot that visualizes the effect estimates of each study. It might also be accompanied by a pooled meta-analysis result in this forest plot, if that is appropriate.